Today we're going to be taking a peek at translating expressions. In other words, either taking sentences and turning them into math expressions or equations, or vice versa. So one of the things that's important in being able to do this is understanding what some of the different words or phrases are that we could use for addition, subtraction, multiply, divide, equals, and sometimes with inequalities. So for instance, when we get into addition, okay, you might see the word add. Okay, that seems sensible to most of you. Okay, another one that we see quite often is the word sum. Okay, and if you were in class for this, you may even end up getting a bigger list. As people sometimes start to think about these, they can come up with quite the list sometimes of what these are. But in our case, we'll just kind of keep going here. So we've got plus. Can you think of any others? We'll come back in a minute just in case you do. I'm not going to go crazy here with these, but again, for instance, with addition, you may have the sum of 7 and 9, which would be 7 plus 9. Okay? That's the type of things that we're looking for here. Subtraction. Well, of course, there's subtract. There's minus. What's the fancy word sometimes that we use with subtraction? Starts with a D. Difference. Okay. And one thing I'm going to start doing with like sum and difference here, because when we get into the word problems a lot of times, we're going to want to start reminding ourselves, and we'll put these little parentheses. You'll see what I mean here in a little bit when we get to some examples. So again, here, what's another one we can use for subtract? This might add to another one with addition. Okay, less than, or with addition, maybe more or more than. Now here, we're going to split our examples on subtraction. Okay. Maybe we have the difference of 10 and 7. Okay, we have 10 minus 7. But what if the wording changes a little bit? What if it now says, I want to know what 10 less than 7 is? Well, I want 10 less than the 7 that I have. So this would be written as 7 minus 10. So we do have to be careful sometimes about how the wording is and actually talk it out and think about it a little bit. Because I have 7, but I want 10 less than that. And kind of work it out that way. Okay, multiplication. We have multiply. We have times. What's the fancy word in this one most of the time? Product. Okay. So here, oftentimes, maybe we have the product of x and 10. 10x. Okay. I could put a little multiplication dot in there, but it's not necessary. We assume when we see a coefficient and a variable that, you know, they would be being multiplied. Okay, division. Well, we've got divide. We have the fancy word, which is quotient, but here we get into a couple of other words that can get to be a little bit tricky sometimes, but it makes sense when we talk about it. Sometimes if you talk about the word ratio, like a fraction almost, that's something that we can sometimes have being worked in there. So we have to watch out for that. So you could have, the quotient of 25 and 5. 25 divided by 5. You could have the ratio of 2 to 8. And you could turn it into a fraction, and that one you'd even be able to reduce. So we do want to be cautious because, you know, if we can simplify more, that's always a good idea. Okay. Equals. Well, I mean, equals can be equals. It can be is equal to. Sometimes it can just be the word is. And that can get to be a little bit more interesting. And it's interesting when we're making this chart, because this happens when we're doing it in class too. I just remembered 2 more words for addition and subtraction, so we're going to include those. Increased and decreased. What was I thinking? Okay. So, but is and equals is a biggie here. If you see that word, that's typically where your equals sign is going to end up being, if it doesn't specifically come out and say equals. Now, inequalities we have to watch out for a little bit. I'm going to star less than here, and here's why. Inequalities, we have less than. Okay, now, less than has nothing to do with the arrow pointing to the left. Less than is what's the arrow pointing at. These two are the same thing. If the arrow points at the variable, or if it was a number, okay, okay, you might have been taught about it with a crocodile or an alligator, you know, it's pointing at it. Greater than, and the word is will be in front when it's an inequality. And you'll notice on these, okay, the arrow is now eating the value that's greater than. So for instance, but again, the word is going to be there. So maybe we have like 9 is greater than 4. 9 is greater than 4. This value is bigger than this one. And I can even write it the other way, because I could also look at the same thing and say 4 is less than 9. 4 is less than, arrow's pointing at it, 9. 9 is greater than 4. And if we have something that says or equal to, that just means our arrow is going to have a line underneath, that it includes that value within what we're working with. Okay? This is just some general background to kind of get you ready. Good sheet to have to go back to if you're not sure sometime as you're working through homework or a quiz preview or something like that. So what we're going to do for a minute is we're going to flip this over now, and we're going to take a peek. As we zoom in a little better here, sorry about that, at how to do some of these things. So for instance here, the number z multiplied by the sum of x and y. Okay, the sum of x and y. Now what's sum mean? Plus. Well, we know what multiplied is. Since we're timesing by something, okay, if I just wrote z times x plus y, here's the problem I'd run into. Order of operations would tell me I have to multiply first. Well, I don't want to do that. I want to add these together. So when I see the sum of, that means I want to put parentheses around, because now I'll add x and y and then multiply by it. Tricky, tricky. But again, sum and difference are the two places we're really going to have to watch out for that. Okay, the sum, well, here's sum again. The sum of k and 7, parentheses, divided by v. Now I can make it a fraction, or I could use divide. But either way, I need to make sure that I'm putting my sum into parentheses. Okay? The number m divided by the sum, parentheses, of z and u. Product. Now, what was product again? Product was times. Decreased means subtract. So the product of A, B, and C, I could put multiplication dots in, but I don't have to, decreased by D, minus D. We're done. The number P subtracted from the product of 10 and X. You're like, okay, product is times. So now this one, let's see. If I just do it in order, I'd do P minus 10X. Or is it 10X minus P? I'm not sure. Well, let's think about it for a minute. You're taking it from, you're taking it away. This one, I'm taking the 10X away. Well, that's not what I want to do. I want to take the P away. So if I want to take P away, it's got to be the one on the right, and it matters. The direction matters. It's like saying it's 5 minus 7, 7 minus 5, the same thing. They're not. So we just got to be kind of cautious sometimes. 2 times the difference, okay, difference just like sum, difference is just minus. Okay, parentheses, got to be there. The number R added to the product of A and C. Now here, I can do either. Because whether I had 3 times 4 plus 5 or 5 plus 3 times 4, I'm still going to get the same answer. So back when we were talking about these properties before, we said for addition and multiplication, we have a little more flexibility, and we do here. Let's see here. We've done that similarly. Let's go up a little bit here, see if we can find one that's a little different. Here we go. 7 times the difference of D and 11. Okay. The number U subtracted from the product of R and S. Now think back up to number 5. Is this U minus RS or RS minus U? RS minus U, because subtracted from. Same thing as saying minus U. Okay. Oh, let's find one more here. Sum of R and S multiplied by 5. Oh, there's that sum word again. Sum and difference, the two that we want parentheses. The sum of R and S multiplied by 5. I put 5 on either side. We're good to go on this. Okay? So nice job with this. Hopefully things are working well for you, and good luck with it.